welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the pod. It's your boy Chad here. That's my man over there.
I'm Joe.
I think they know that by now, man. I probably need to stop saying my name. Anyway, so this episode, we want to give a warning early in this episode. We're going to be discussing the video game Spider-Man 2. So it's going to be mad spoilers. So if you have not played the game and you are wanting to play it at some point, please, I would probably hold off on this episode till you play and beat the game and then come back and revisit it. If you don't care about spoilers, then sit back, relax, and we're going to chop it up over our thoughts over Spider-Man 2 that we both now fully played through. And I've been chomping at the bit to talk about this. Obviously, I'm in costume tonight wearing my Venom t-shirt, so obviously I'm amped for this episode. Very amped.
I would say, too, probably some spoilers for the first two games with Spider-Man 1 and Miles, because we might touch on that. So just forewarning, we might go back a little. So if you haven't played any of them, play them.
Big facts. Without further ado, let's start this. So, as we've said in previous episodes, Joe and I both got the limited edition Spider-Man PS5s for Spider-Man 2. Joe he started playing it, I think a little bit before I did, and then I finally kind of jumped into it and got into it. Right off the bat, I mean, the opening sequence of the game, you're fighting Sandman, and it's just involved. Like, it's so involved. So a couple of quick highlights of the game. You get to play as both Peter Parker and Miles Morales, which is really cool. One of my worries with that, and I think we spoke about it on an earlier episode, was how they were going to allow you to go back and forth, and how the story was going to play out between both Spider-Mans, because you had to create two different narratives in the game. That's not easy to do when you have just two main characters. Like, the Avengers was different. Like, each one of those characters had their own storyline, and when they came to the Avengers, they kind of all flowed into each other. With Peter Parker and Miles Morales, in my eyes, it was like, this is going to be kind of challenging because they fight their own demons. They both have their own challenges. And if you went back and played the first two Spider-Man, like, they had really evolved storylines, like, really in depth. So, but I think personally, flawlessly, I think they made it super smooth how they transitioned from each Spider-Man, how you would play a little bit as Peter, come back, play a little bit as Miles, and then they gave you the power to be like, hey, do you want to go play some as Miles? You just, follow the prompts on the screen and switch characters, and bam, now you're the other Spider-Man. You could flip at will. So I thought that was really cool. What was kind of like your first initial thoughts of like early gameplay?
Okay, so was not expecting Sandman right off the bat, and that, I'm not surprised. Was the first one we had Kingpin, and it was just like, oh shit, we're getting into it. And I had no idea. I thought, with all, we have Kraven and we have Venom, where I have some sub stories. I was not expecting like a big character like Sandman, and that played a substantial storyline and side missions throughout the game too. So honestly, awesome to get that, and it was big and fun, and yeah, like, I don't know, that's the way you hook somebody, and that's how you open a game. And I thought it was way better than, not discounting the Kingpin one, but that was definitely a step up. It was very cool. I didn't have the same kind of fear as you did, as with like going back and forth. I was just kind of excited, but I thought, just to touch on it briefly before we get into it, is like, yeah, I thought it was a fantastic job. I don't know, just like, I feel like you knew where the story was kind of going, and I just think it's really cool that you can balance with Miles. Like, it felt to me early on that he, the presence was his. I felt like it was almost a Miles story. Like, you got to, Peter was so further on in the game, and I always thought that was cool. Like, we've already established all these characters. So, and that's kind of how I felt with the Miles Morales game too. It's just, I feel like this is where it's going, and I don't know, they just did a really fantastic job of, their own storylines and somehow mingling that. It was a work of art, in so many ways, definitely story-wise. So, yeah, first impressions, you got to be both, you got to work together. So I think they kind of laid the groundwork of, this is not a two-player game, but like,
two-character game.
Yeah, like, they showed you that they're going to interact well,
right.
And then, throughout the game, like, working together. So I felt like they did a good job. So I didn't think I had the same concern. But yeah, awesome opening scene for sure.
Fair enough. Kind of for myself, and I'm not saying other nerds and gamers should do this too, but I went back and played the other two Spider-Mans just because I like the cohesiveness of the storyline. Because if you've played the other two Spider-Man, the storylines all interact perfectly. Like especially if like you jump into Spider-Man 2 and you haven't beat at least Spider-Man 1, there are some things that you're not even going to understand right off the bat. Like when MJ's talking about Symkaria, you're like, what the hell is Symkaria? Well, you got to go back and play the first Spider-Man to figure out what Symkaria is. The one thing that I wasn't expecting, because they hit it so well in the marketing, was Kraven. Whenever I first heard about the game and really got into it and wanted to get it, I thought Venom was going to be like prominent throughout the whole game. Mm-hmm. I was really surprised like how heavy the storyline was aimed at Kraven. But then I kind of started thinking about it. If you think about Spider-Man 1, they kind of did that with who's the guy, the main person you fought, Mr. Negative.
Oh, yeah.
And then like really the storyline was about Mr. Negative until Sinister Six happened and Doc Ock, did all that. So, they kind of fought the same way, because if you played Miles Morales, it wasn't really like that. Like you fought Rhino. That was kind of like the only big major guy you fought, and then it was all the Tinkerer. So I wasn't expecting that. It really threw me for a loop, but I really liked it because it made the anticipation of Venom so much more. Because I'm just like, when am I going to see him? When are we going to get him? When is he going to come? Because it's like everything you're doing is against Kraven. But also I really liked how engaging it was with Kraven. Like they didn't shortchange you. They didn't just like, oh, we're just going to throw him out here. Like they made you invest in it, just like, yo, we got to take this dude down because this guy is nuts.
Yeah, you kind of hit that. It's like he killed people.
Yeah,
he killed Vulture. Scorpion. I was not expecting that. I'm like, this dude is killing all the characters.
Yeah. Oh, that was gangster.
I was like, this is wild. So that gave you like this feel of like, I don't know where this is going. And yeah, it made you invested. You're like, well, that's cool. We have Venom, but this guy's terrible. So yeah, it was. I expected him though, because I saw the first trailer. I saw the trailer for that in the woods, and I think the only thing I saw for Venom was like him in an alleyway doing his voice, and so I didn't really see anything for Venom, even though we knew he was coming. So I had a different kind of intro into what to expect. But yeah, didn't expect how it went. So yeah, it was definitely a really good storyline and arcs all the way through.
I really liked. I also really liked the struggles of Peter and Miles with their personal lives. Mm-hmm. You had Peter, who was still processing the death of May and kind of trying to re-jumpstart his life. Him and MJ trying to coexist. And then him kind of battling that, do I need to be Spider-Man anymore now that Miles is here? Then you had Miles, who he's trying to live up to his father's honor. He's trying to live up to make Peter proud. But also, he has his future to think about. He has school. He's trying to get into college. Like, he's trying to have a buddy in romance. So it was like, I just thought they really did well showcasing the kind of struggle it is to be a superhero. Like, hey, I'm a superhero and all these people love me, but I got real shit going on in my life that I got to deal with. And you got to balance that out. So I thought that was really, really well done. Like, they had showcased that in the other two games, but I thought they really, I feel like the Spider-Man 2, they've really stepped up their storytelling, like, in a really immense way, to where it was one of the first games, well, not one of the first, but it's one of the few games, like, outside of, like, Naughty Dog, who was great storytelling company. But games like that, God of War, Last of Us, Uncharted, like, you're invested in the storyline. You like, I keep playing because it's not about gameplay. It's like, I want to see where the story goes. Like, I want to see what's going to happen next. Like, it was just really well of like just drawing you in and just laying out this story and the fluidity of how it just advanced. Like, it was just, it was just a great flow.
Again, I'm not shy about this, but like, I don't get emotional in games I get emotional like in movies and stuff. I'm kind of softy at sometimes, but like that hit you in the feels like a lot through that game. Like, you were so into it that just like, oh man, You know, like they have the storytelling phenomenal, and it's because I think they spent time, like the Coney Island thing. Like you're like, what are we doing? You know, but like it takes you out of fighting, and it's not just a fighting game. It's like, no, you have to build this character. You have to show these relationships, and if they didn't do stuff like that, it wouldn't have had as big of an impact. So
Agreed.
Yeah, and like, and the Coney Island thing, it's like, oh, here's Harry, and then Miles is like, the best friend's back, and he's supposed to be my mentor,
Right.
and like, I don't know how they balance it. The writers are fantastic.
No, they did amazing with this game.
Like, I kind of felt through the beginning like that's where they were going with it, and I think they just got it. Even though I knew where it was going, I was still like pleasantly surprised of like how they were just pushing Miles to be the strong one. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like Peter's worn out. You know what I mean? He's
Yeah.
May, Harry, like he's just, and then like you have this new kid, the new Spider-Man that you got to, just him being the strong one, I thought was really a smart move because, you know, like of where they're kind of going. And like I said, it's that timeline of Peter's already done it for years, you know, and it's a smart path they took, you know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, super emotional.
Yeah.
Well,
I really like the scene where, you know, MJ and Peter walk out their house, and MJ's about to go. I think she's going to the Bugle, and Harry's outside. Mm. And you got to remember, Harry's been gone since the first Spider-Man, and so you have that emotional interaction of them seeing each other, and then you have the bike ride to their old high school, and you play that kind of that reenactment. I thought that was amazing because like they're showcasing you how much Peter has missed Harry, how much has Harry missed Peter, and then how important their friendship was to each other. And then, you know, they introduced the Emily May Foundation, which, you know, mind-blowing. I want to kind of pivot into the gameplay. Okay. So, obviously, fighting mechanics on par, amazing. They've been great since the first Spider-Man, and they just ramped them up when they got to this one. So, fighting smooth. One of my favorite things about Spider-Man 2 was that when you introduced gadgets, they now were just like a quick hit on the right triggers, and you didn't have to go to another menu and do all this. Like, you could just hold a button and hit a different corresponding button and have all your gadgets right there. I love that. Versus the other two, you got to go in, you got to use a wheel, pick what gadget you want. Like, it was a whole ordeal. And then the other thing I liked is, you know, obviously in the other two, you had fast travel. So you could fast travel to like police stations, and then in Miles, it was subways. Well, in Spider-Man 2, you got web wings, and that was a fucking game changer in my opinion. Like, I used web wings like it was going out of style, and then you had like the jet streams that you could hit. Mm-hmm. Like, it just made traveling in the game so much better. I mean, you could still quick travel, but it was still like, I just webbed wing. Like, I didn't even think about quick traveling. It was just like, oh, I need to go like to the Upper West Side, and I'm already in the financial district. Oh, web wings, let's do this, and just glide. And I love that, and you didn't have that in the other two, and I was just like, so glad y'all thought of this.
I'd have to give a nod to Breath of the Wild for that. Like,
oh, really?
I don't know if that's where they got the idea, but it's one of my favorite things in Breath of the Wild. It's like, I got to get down there, glider, you know, and that's how it felt. It was like a really good like way to travel and get to where you wanted to go. But the web wings was like amplified that because the more you could upgrade your travel, the longer you could stay up. So yeah, you would just be like, I'm just floating forever. Then it's basically like you're flying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At that point, and so like the better that feature got, it was the same way. It's like, unless I was in Harlem and I had to go all the way to Astoria or something or wherever it is down there, Brooklyn, I'm like, I only have like an hour left to play. Then I would fast travel, which was the fast travel was really sweet. How he just like.
Yeah, sometimes he would swing, or sometimes he would web glide. It was like you didn't know which one you were going to get.
Yeah, I was just like, that's really cool. The load times were crazy. Two things I thought were really neat was I feel like they upped the city. So the city was really cool, and it was just like, there's so much more. Like, you didn't have to do that, but you did. And then,
they added a whole nother side to the island in this one.
Well, yeah, even like downtown. On the main island, I feel like they way more buildings and just way more polished. But then like Sandman was in the beginning, and then like the whole financial district was insane.
Oh yeah,
I was like,
Same,
oh, that's
yeah.
really cool. And it was until you got to the end where everything was a symbiote. And then it was like, holy
Yeah.
shit, they've turned everything into. So, like, that blew my mind, too, because I'm like, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
To just, it's one thing to build a city, but then, like, have it intricately covered in some goo or sand, just to build that. Just, yeah, the artwork of the layout it was amazing to see.
Also, how in parts of the game, like if you were closer to where the Sandman incident happened, there was more sand. But then the further you got away, you started seeing less and less sand until you got to like the upper part of the island, and no sand. And then if you took notice, like you were saying, that there was more to the map. If you look at the first two games, you kind of only had the main island where Manhattan is, going all the way up to Harlem. And in this one, you got Astoria, and I can't remember all the other sides of that, but basically almost Brooklyn on the right-hand side. Or not Brooklyn. Oh, yeah, it was Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, it was Brooklyn. Yeah, Brooklyn. You got all the way down to Brooklyn. So I was like, that's really cool. Like, so it makes me wonder, okay, in the third one, are we going to get the left side of the map? And now we have pretty much almost all of the major area of New York. So I played it on just like the kind of medium level. I didn't go hardcore because I like a challenge, but I'm not trying to like, hardcore. I don't do all that. Like, even though I'm a gamer, it's like, I don't need to like be the ultimate. But I liked how the game was challenging, but it wasn't overbearingly challenging. Like, even when you fought like a big boss or somebody tougher, it never felt like, God, I'm never going to beat this person. Mm-hmm. Like, they made it where it was just like, okay, it's challenging, but I'm still can beat this person. I'm not going to have to do like 52 million continues. Like, even when you fight Kraven, like, I think he only killed me once. And that's just because I was being sloppy with my tactics. Mm-hmm. And the second go round, it was super easy. So it was like they really they made the game challenging without you just like wanting to chuck your controller every 5 seconds, and at least in that level of mode. Now, granted, if we were to go to Ultimate, we don't know how crazy it could be. It could be just stupid hard. So, but I just thought that was really nice in my opinion.
With the mechanics of that, I feel like they either just knew or they listened to feedback. Because they got rid of a lot of stuff that I felt was annoying, like certain travel, and then all the fights and all the the little pits. There was some of them, but there wasn't a lot of them. So I felt like there wasn't a lot of filler of just nonsense fighting. Because I don't want to sit there and just smash my controller for hours. So like I thought it was really well balanced. I also liked how, kind of like you were talking about earlier about the mechanics. I thought it was cool that Miles and Peter both got like a sub ability. Like you could switch your Venom power or your Lee power. And then like once you got the symbiote, you could still have, or anti-venom, which is a whole other thing. But when I was building up the tree, I'm like, well, what happens when Venom's here? What's the point of
right?
Because
they had all that blacked out now.
Yeah, I'm like, well, if I upgrade it and I lose the suit, I'm not going to have those powers. So what's the point of upgrading it? And I was not expecting anti-venom.
I know, that was super cool. Cool.
But yeah, so I thought, the mechanics, the fighting, everything was top notch. And I'm playing God of War now, Ragnarok, and it's so hard. It was really hard for me to shift because, like, you can't even jump in that game. And just how great those controls were. And it's just like when I started God of War, I'm like, oh, I love the story and the graphics, and I'm like, this sucks. With these like 2-button things, I'm like, ooh. But I got accustomed to it. But yeah, I don't think people realize like how good. There's so many games out there with just really shit controls. Good games.
Yep.
I think that's one of the things they did in the first one is they spent a lot of time just with the fighting mechanics because they wanted it perfect. So they had to invent it. That's what took them the longest time because they cared that much. So. Yeah, really, really solid.
So, kind of still going with the gameplay. One of the things that I actually enjoyed with this game is, as I was playing it, and like I was doing side missions here and there, I started seeing my trophies racking up for my PSN account. And it got in my head, like, I'm going to 100% this game. And so I started doing every little thing that you could in the game to get as many trophies as possible. I did every side mission. I did every, bases that you could do, like hunter bases and symbiote. Like, I did everything where, like, I had Miles and Peter maxed out like 5 missions before the last mission of the game because I worked through so much stuff that it was just I had them built out. I had all their character trees built out. And it really, I don't know, it was very satisfying. I thought it was going to be tedious and I thought I was going to hate it. But I just enjoyed 100, and I enjoyed it so much that I ended up going back and 100%ing the other 2 games. Because I enjoyed it that much. And then obviously with the side missions, spoiler alert, if you do the flame one, you find out who the leader of the flame is. And I feel like that set up the third one. Like at least one of the villains of the third one. And I was just like, I hate that you dropped that nugget, but I get why you dropped that nugget because you got to start setting up the next one.
Well, you could say it because we've already did the spoiler alert. I was gonna say with that, it's one of probably the more disappointing things because my wife's like, "What are you gonna do that side mission?" I'm like, "Oh, I'll get to it. Is it even there?" I was expecting a Carnage. I didn't finish the flame until I went back. So it was probably one of the more disappointing things because I was waiting at the end of the fucking game. Where's Carnage? Where's Carnage? I'm
right.
Like, oh, that's disappointing.
They hit it in
then
the
I go
side
back
mission.
and I'm playing. It's like, oh, should go back and play the thing. And I'm like, two missions in. I'm like,
right.
I wish I would have had that before I finished the game. Still exciting. And
I like how they did it though. Like it wasn't blatant. It was like you got to beat the missions to see the gems that we hit in this game.
And I'm pissed that I didn't pick that up. Like I should have known. And okay,
I figured out like the 3rd mission in to that side quest. I was like, okay, so this is the angle we're going. Okay, all right.
Yeah, like I should have known that was Cletus. And to stem from that, this game took elements from so many versions and they combined them. Like they took like every good part of every storyline from like even Venom. Early on, they took it from like a one set of comic books, and then like the winged version was from another writer. They took what they wanted from this vast pool and made it their own. And I'm really impressed. For example, like Anti-Venom is from Martin Lee, but it's a totally different storyline, but they made it work. Like it's just super impressive how they took what they wanted and made it work for their own universe, but also nodding to all those comic book writers and artists.
They kept it pure.
Yeah, it's like it's their own thing, and I'm like, where'd they pull this one from? What happened? Which comic book? Because I haven't read them all. You know, I've read a lot.
Right.
But I'm like, when did that happen? That sounds familiar. Yeah, super cool. What did you think about the Mysterio?
Are we talking the story arc of it, or are we talking just the overall interaction of it? Or...
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah, just like I thought that to me was interesting, but what do you think?
I was very surprised that they did it for Miles and not Peter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at first.
That I wasn't expecting that because Mysterio has always been kind of a Spider-Man, like a Peter Parker villain, and not a Miles, in my opinion. So I thought it was interesting that they introduced that for Miles, but I also liked the angle of you didn't know if it was really him being evil or what was going on. Like they left you in such kind of a state of like, is he bad? Because if you notice, almost every villain in the game was some sort of rehabilitation. Like basically they did their time, they got out, and they're trying to reorient into society. And so Tombstone was in there as well. He was working at Coney Island, I think. Yeah. And so when you do the Mysterio missions, I kind of had this thing like, is he bad? Is he evil? Like you hear the two girls talking, and it's just like, you know, they're leaving the voicemails, and then you do the last mission, and then you actually talk to Mysterio, and you're just like, what? Like, all right, so you're actually trying to reform. I like it. Like I thought it was a unique storyline, and I liked how they made it. They did really well with all the subplots in this game. They made them mini stories within their own. And I thought that was really cool. Like we said, we talked about the Flame. Great storyline. You talk about the Mysterios. Great storyline. Like, it's just all the little subplots that were happening all around you, but then it all interwove into each other to where it still made the game, like, super coherent. Like, you didn't feel lost playing it. Like, what the fuck's going on over there? What the fuck? Like, everything just kind of meshed. But I did end up enjoying the Mysterio storyline. Some of those challenges were fucking annoying. Yeah. But, you know, Mysterio is an annoying person. So it's kind of like, I get it. So what was your thoughts on it?
Pretty much the same. Yeah, I was just, again, started out like, why is this a Miles thing? Like, this seems weird. But then, like, I was kind of worried, like, where's it going? Because it seemed like it could infect his mind. Kind of like Lee, you know, like...
Right.
So you know my personality. You know who I am. You know, I was like, well, shit, where's this going? And so I totally did not expect the ending for him just to be, like, wrapped up in a closet. Or not wrapped up. But I'm like, what the hell is this? So, again, and they didn't have to add Mysterio at all to the game. And then just, like, how many ideas do you guys have? Because, like, it all worked, and it was just crazy. I think one of the coolest things that I was probably more interested in as a subplot than probably a lot of them was the spiders.
Oh, the spider bots that were all, or the drones? Were they bots or drones?
They were like bots,
they were all over the city. Yeah.
Did you finish?
There were some that were really hard to get. Yeah, I got them all.
So like,
and the ending really, I was just like, whoa, what is this?
And that's why I wanted to know. It's like, we're coming off of the Spider-Verse, you know, or the Miles, you know, that storyline in the Sony universe. And I was like, I know where this is going, but I want to know why it's entering. Because Spider-Man was in the game version of Spider-Man was in the second Miles movie.
Miles movie, yeah.
Yeah, the Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah, because he was in the thing when he won. I was like, oh, cool, a nod to the game. Yeah, so I knew where it was going, but I thought that was really interesting. I'm like, what? Like, oh, hello?
Yeah. Well, and then just the cliffhanger it leaves you on is just like, I'll take that. Zero, and you're just like, whoa, wait a minute, hold on. How did you get your stuff here in the first place? Like, what is going... dude, that was a good one. I'm really glad. Like, there was one spider bot I was stuck on. It was like in the middle of the sky, and you had to like glide to it perfectly to get it. And I finally got it, and then Genki's like, "Hey, I found the location." I just like went straight there. I was like, "I gotta find out what's going on with this."
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. But again, not necessary. But I was really curious. I'm like, are you opening up the multiverse in the game?
Yeah.
So, last thing I want to say on that is I did miss a Stan Lee cameo. Because his cameo in the diner of the first game is one of my favorite cameos by him. Because I felt like, oh, you two were always my favorite. I'm like, that felt personal, you know, for him. And so it kind of sucked.
I might be wrong on this, but didn't he start with Spider-Man? Like, wasn't that one of his first comics, or am I
I don't know the timeline, but I know it's like,
Gotcha.
It's Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, and it's both have passed a year after each other. So, you know, him in that first game, I was just like, that's probably one of my favorite cameos, just because I felt like that was genuine. Like, you two were always my favorite, like his favorite creation. And then, so, it sucks that we don't get those anymore. But let's get into our favorite.
So, Venom, he is easily top 3 in my villains of all time. Vader's number 1, Joker's number 2, Venom's number 3. So, the lead up to discovering Venom. So, obviously, we find out that Harry has the symbiote. And it's what's basically curing his illness that he had, same illness that killed his mom. And actually, they kind of give Harry, which I thought was really cool, kind of superhero abilities where he starts helping Miles and Peter. I don't remember what he calls himself. I don't think he calls himself anything. But he actually starts helping them fight crime. We see it a little bit at the Coney Island mishap that happens. But for those who have played it, obviously you find out at Coney Island, Peter gets almost gravely injured. The symbiote leaves Harry, and that's when Peter gets the symbiote for the first time. So, Peter with the symbiote. My favorite thing about him having the symbiote was the fact that the creators and writers and developers took the time to have his personality changed the longer he had the suit. To me, that was my favorite thing in this game. Because if you remember any of the lore with the symbiote, it takes over your personality. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they threw that little thing in there, to me, was the perfect just little gem in this game to me. Like, And if you play the game, you know Peter has one-liners that he loves to throw around when he's fighting crime or when he's about to start a fight. He loves to throw out something funny. Well, as he's in the symbiote, his personality alters, so he starts getting meaner and like more evil when he's about to fight. And then they took it even further when he's having conversations with Miles or Mary Jane, and even Harry, and you hear his like basically telling him, "Yo, F off." Like it was. Like I geeked out over that. Like you don't understand. And I mean, I and then the first time Peter actually like the symbiote takes over and you actually fight. Mm-hmm. The controller, as you know, if you have a PS5, has a speaker on it. Venom's talking to you as you're. Oh, dude, it's the little things, man. It is the details, bro. Like I geeked out so hard whenever he got the symbiote. Like. I just and what's crazy is I geek out even harder when we get more into what else happens. But like tell me how you felt when you saw that he gets the symbiote and he starts changing.
Yeah. Well, I know like Harry got it and then I was like, well, this is weird. But I know like Harry's had it in a comic, maybe a cartoon of it before. Like I said, they pulled from so many different things. So it's like as a Spider-Man fan and like Venom fan, it's like it's hard to like I just kind of let myself go to enjoy it. Right. Like, let me go on this ride. I'm like, but that's not.
Yeah, I tried not to be nitpicky with it. I was just like, this is their story. Let's let them tell it.
And that was hard for me at first because it was just like when you're a super fan that happens. And so I was like, okay, what's this Harry shit? And then, and then he got damaged. And then when he got it during that Kraven fight, again, I had the moment. I had those two moments, and that was the first like, oh my god, it's coming speaker. And I'm just like, he was so powerful, and he was just like,
oh, dude, uber powerful.
And I'm like, yes. And I knew you get the suit. You knew you get the suit, but then it was amazing. I loved that they took you down a long path.
Yeah,
it was it wasn't just like, oh, we're playing for 30 minutes and he loses a suit. You know, it was a long time he had that suit, and he had that issue with Miles. They built up more of that story, and you felt it. You were part, and you hung on to that for a long time, and you went down that path. And I think it's probably my favorite ever version of that path to darkness. Him waking up on the bench the next day, like, oh, I got to call her marriage. Oh, fuck her. You know,
right?
Like, what? This dude's a dick.
But like, the part where Rio calls him, like, hey, have you heard from Miles? And he's just like, I'll find him. And like, he's an asshole. And I'm like, dude, that's Miles' mom. Like, it was so well done, dude. Yeah. So well done. They really brought you into the internal struggle of Peter and the symbiote, and I thought that was beautiful. Like you said, we didn't get like just 30 minutes with the symbiote, then he loses it. Like, no, you got to see the devastating effect of the symbiote when you had it for too long of a time. And well, I don't want to cut you off, so I'll let you keep going. Sorry.
No, I was good. Yeah, go ahead.
But then I also liked, so you had Peter being an asshole, but then you had Peter still trying to come through. So the symbiote is like, hey, I'm feeding you power, like everything that you want. And the other Peter's like, you're changing, man. Like, and then to me, the ultimate turning point was when Harry calls him. And you can tell Harry is struggling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He is sick. And Peter, that was one of the first times I've played a game, not even kidding, where like I'm the main character and I'm just like, fuck this guy, man. like Harry's dying and you're just like, no. Like it fucked me up, dude. I was just like, that was like, I had to stop for a minute. Like I put my controller down and just sat in that, like, because again, like you said, the writers had you invested. You saw the joy that Peter had when Harry came back. And to watch Peter shit on that, like, it blew my fucking mind, dude. Yeah. Like, what did you think? Like, when it got to that point?
No, like I said, it was like, you're invested. That's what I'm saying. You goes down this path and you're just like, get rid of it.
Right.
Figure your shit out. Like, I don't want to play you anymore. Like, I'm gonna go play Miles missions because you're pissing me off. And I did that. Right. I'm like, I'm gonna go find a trumpet with Miles. I'm gonna do a nice little mission here.
Yeah,
because you're a dick. yeah, that was, like I said, the writing all the way through. That
Prime.
was amazing. Yeah. So
Movie level writing through this whole game.
that
Movie
would
level
be on
writing.
par. Yeah. That's what it felt like. It was, yeah, crazy.
So you obviously you eventually get rid of the symbiote. I'm trying to remember the sequence of when we got rid of it. It was when you, what fight was that?
It was the one with
It
Miles.
was when you were fighting. Was it It was Miles when you fought Miles.
Which was
or
crazy
was Miles
scene.
fighting you? Miles was fighting.
Yeah,
you're
you
playing
switched.
as Miles fighting.
Switched. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when you finally get the symbiote off. So then, obviously, the symbiote's in a container. Well, you're taking said container. I think you're taking it back to the EMF, where Dr. Connors is waiting to take the suit back. Harry's there. Harry gets the suit. This to me was the best sequence in video game, at least modern video game history for me. Venom's born. What blew my mind with this was that I was not expecting them to give you control of Venom.
Yep.
And they let you play as, I had to pause for a second before I could revel in it because, like I said, Venom is one of my favorite villains. So I literally paused the game and I just, I had to take an exhale because I was so amped up. And then you just get to tear shit apart as Venom.
Yep.
They had him uber powerful and you just were mowing down fucking people. Mowing them down. He was fucking people up left and right. And it was glory. It's a video game and I felt powerful. I felt like I got a symbiote. It was, I geeked out so hard over that sequence. Tell me how you felt when you got to do that part.
Again, it's funny that you and I pretty much played this game the same way, but not expecting it. I was like, oh, I'm going to fight. I got to come in and fight him. And I was just like, I'm him. What? Yes. Are you fucking kidding me? This is great. So what? Totally. Yeah. Nobody would have ever expected that because that was just supposed to be your main bad guy. And then, yeah, it was just destruction. And the first head I chomped on, to the thing, it was like crunch. You're just fucking killing people. I'm like, you felt, again, you got all these other characters right, and then you felt like Venom. And I don't think I've played Venom in other games, and I don't feel like that made you feel like you were him. You did. You felt powerful. You're like, I don't think I'd survive the suit. I'd be out there murdering people because this feels great.
Right.
This is just nothing could stop him. And yeah. And then
his finishers were brutal. Like you said, biting off heads. I wasn't expecting that. You're literally killing people as Venom. And they're
Crunch,
this is Spider-Man. What is going on? Oh my God.
Yeah, they tweaked it. I'll let you lead up until the next part. But yeah, that's, you cross the border into the almost R level.
And so,
which is my favorite from the game, I think.
Yeah, it is my favorite sequence from the game, bar none.
Yeah.
So, you're battling as Venom. You're kicking everybody's ass. Everybody. And then, obviously, who shows up? Kraven the Hunter. Venom is his ultimate hunt.
Yeah.
When they show Kraven and that smile, that sent chills. Because I was just to him, this is his Disneyland. This is his Christmas. Finally, an apex predator that I've been waiting for.
Yep.
Tell me how you felt about the battle when you were Venom versus Kraven.
I was still hyped up on just the scene, so I'm just I think I died at one point because I was just nerding out. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, who do I kill? What's going on? I got thrown shit. So I died at some point, which I'm like, this isn't a hard battle.
Right, yeah.
But yeah,
they didn't make it hard at all.
I was still just in a freak out, unbelievable mode of is this happening?
Right, yeah.
So yeah, the battle with him was okay, but yeah, the scene after is I paused and I was just I looked at my wife and I'm just did that just fucking happen?
I remember you texting me and you're just dude, I just fought Kraven with Venom. And I was like, blew your mind, and he's just like, I'm still geeking out, man.
Yeah, I don't think she's ever. Yeah, I don't think she's ever seen me nerd out after those two scenes of first Peter getting it, and then that scene. I don't think I've ever like geeked out that hard in front of her in like the 6 years I've known her or whatever. But so, I mean, she enjoyed it too. But I'm just like, because you did expect to be him, and then you did expect the two protagonists storyline to end there, and I'm like, where's this going? Yeah,
it was a dope way to end Kraven's storyline and begin Venom's.
Yeah,
because it was almost poetic. You're sitting here fighting Kraven the whole game, and he's looking for the perfect prey. He's looking for the perfect hunt. And he thought he had found it in all the villains on the island, but he kills most of them. And then he thinks he finds it in Spider-Man, but he sees Spider-Man as he's too emotional. He's too good, too pure. And then Venom's born, who is like Spider-Man's antithesis. And it's like, what better way to end that storyline to pick up the other one than to have, and for those, spoiler alert, you get to bite Kraven's head off as Venom. That shit was wild. Like, I like put my controller around and like danced around the room because I was geeking out. I was like, this is the craziest. Like, I had to stop playing the game for a little bit because I was just so amped up. I was like, I gotta take a 5-minute break because that whole... I'm telling you, man, that Uncharted 2, the train scene was my favorite sequence in a video game ever. That sequence as Venom blew that out of the water. I completely blew it out of the water. But yeah, oh man. And then, he disappears and, you end it. And it was so satisfying. Mm-hmm. Even though you're Venom, even though you're a bad guy, killing Kraven was so satisfying. Like, and getting to kill him as Venom in such a barbaric way. Because, Peter wouldn't have killed him. Either Spider-Man would not have killed him. So the fact that you got to kill Kraven was dope as shit. I was like, okay, y'all are not playing in this game. Like, y'all are going for jugulars in this game.
You had that nice segue with these two characters, but then it also led into Harry's dark path. Because you're like, what did I do? But like, then you've helped create not just Venom, but the Venom that is that dark path for him, and the symbiote taking over. So like, just again, great story, right? Yeah, you could have ended there and did a 2-part game, and I'd been happy.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So, like I said, it didn't discount. Like the rest of the game was great, but yeah, I think that's still that was my favorite scene out of the whole thing.
And so, at that point, you switch back to Spider-Man. So now you got to go search for Harry. You find out he's at May's house with MJ. I was not expecting Harry to infect MJ with a symbiote. I literally was not. And then I can't remember the name that she turns into.
It is Scream.
Scream, thank you. That fight with her, to me, it wasn't as great as obviously the Venom fight. Like, nothing's going to touch a candle to that. But it was one of my favorite fights in the game. Because as he's fighting Scream, she's trying to hurt Peter with all these barbs that have weighed on him about Mary Jane. Like, it's like she went after all his insecurities about Mary Jane. And I just thought it was a brilliant fight. Like, yeah, it was a chaotic, but to me, when I say brilliant, it was the dialogue during the fight. I was just like, okay, that's super dope that y'all incorporated that into the fight. Because it started fucking with Peter's psyche partway through the fight. Because he's been questioning himself the whole game. Like, am I good enough for Mary Jane? Am I holding her back? Like, am I oh man, that fight was just so epic. And then obviously he saves her. But like, did you like that fight? Did you care for that fight? Were you like, whatever?
Again, I think part of me was, I struggled the whole game with this was, again, what the storylines I followed, I was like, Mary Jane was never Scream. So I struggled with that. And again, I had to push a lot of those out, like, enjoy the story, because my brain was just working overtime. Like, where's the other symbiotes? Where's Venom's children?
Right.
Where are they going with this? Where's the other ones? So like, is Riot and all the other ones here? So that's kind of where my brain was going. yeah, I thought it worked well for that relationship and how it ended in the end of the game. Fun fact: Laura Bailey did the voice of Scream, who is in Uncharted and Last of Us.
Yeah. I heard about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So I thought I just found that out. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. But she looked good as Scream.
Oh, yeah,
I thought
she
it,
looked
it
good.
looked like the comic. It looked. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally. Again, them using something for their own that had nothing to do. Scream storyline is something completely different, and then they pretty much kill her there. So
Right. Yeah.
they could do other symbiote pass offs, but yeah,
To wrap it up, obviously, you end up fighting Venom at the end. It's a really good fight in that it's not hard. It's just Peter's having that internal struggle of what he knows he has to do to basically get the symbiote off of Harry. And I just thought that was it really brought all the emotion to the game. And then you get Harry out the symbiote, but at what cost? And you felt the hurt in Peter. Like, I just thought that was brilliant. Like, again, the writers did such a great job of making you invested in every character that you encountered, whether it was good or bad. Like, you were invested in this game. And I think it is downright blasphemous that this game did not win a single award. I think these people are idiots if you didn't give this game at least some reward for the writing, for the art direction, something. Like, I'm not to take anything from Alan Wake 2, because that's one of my favorite games, and not to take away from Baldur's Gate, even though I don't understand it at all, and I don't understand the hype around it. Like, but Spider-Man 2, like, in my opinion, game of the year. Like,
yeah, same.
game of the year. It was. I have no words for just. I haven't been that invested in a video game in a very long time, and I was staying up 2 a.m. playing this game sometimes on days where I knew I had to work. So, hats off to them, man. They killed it, man.
Let's wrap up this real quick with some of the end spoilers. We know we're
Sure.
going to get Green Goblin.
I think Green Goblin's coming for sure.
I don't know what the storyline is with Doc Ock. I didn't quite understand. Unless they're just
My
gonna bring him
my
back.
guess with that is like he's going to help Norman develop Green Goblin.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's my guess
we're gonna have Carnage,
for sure.
and then the spoiler, which I had to look this up because I was unfamiliar, was Cindy. I think it was Cindy, Rio's new boyfriend's daughter, is bitten by the same spider, or spider
As
as
Miles?
Spider-Man.
Oh, as the original Spider-Man.
So
Interesting.
Yeah, that her storyline came out in like 2013, so it's very new to me. I didn't know who this was, so
Okay.
I'm really curious because I feel like they're getting rid of Spider-Man, but then giving a character with similar powers. She has like her own manipulative powers, or it can make people explode. I think something. So I think it's really they're just pulling from whatever they want. So we have Green Goblin, Carnage. Maybe Venom will come back?
I don't think we'll get Venom, but obviously, the Carnage is like a form of the symbiote that's left behind, that it's altered in a way, basically. Like, I think. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, classic Venom, Spider-Man and Venom. It took both of them to take down Carnage.
Carnage.
So
That is
that's
true.
why I'm like,
That is true.
Now we have a new Spider-Man, so we have 3 Spider-Men. Oh, Spider Ladies. Yeah.
But like you said, with the bots, they did a nod to the Spider-Verse. What if we get some other Spider-Men, Spider-Women that I think I think the writers wanted to introduce Carnage because he's a big one, and we're gonna get Green Goblin because we hadn't had him yet. And those are 2 huge villains for the Spider-Man lore. And you look at all the villains they've showcased so far. But I think they're gonna keep us in the dark with this one. Like, I think it'll kind of be like the Venom, where we know Venom's coming, where we're going to see Carnage. Like, Carnage will probably be the cover character. But then we're going to get into the game when it drops, and it's going to be like, holy shit, they have, like, every villain we've never even thought of in this fucking game. And then we're getting Spider-Man out the wazoo and Spider-Women out the wazoo. So,
Yeah, I think they'll have to go big because they've stepped it up each time. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So and it sounded like what Doc Ock said at the end, I don't remember the wording, but it sounded very final.
Yes.
Like, this is where it ends. So it's like they're going to make a third game. It might even be a two-parter. But it seems like, yeah, they're going to finish out that series there.
Oh, I'm all for it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm very excited for it. We won't hear anything for it for years.
Right.
Probably
We are getting
PS6.
New Game Plus and some other added features coming. We're not sure if it's going to be DLC or if it's going to be free. Hopefully it's free, but we'll find out. But obviously we'll let you all know once we get any more wording on that. We'll bring it up in a later episode. The last thing I want to do before we end the night real quick, this was probably my favorite mission out of the whole game, is where you had to find out who was tagging all the areas in Harlem, and you were doing it as what's the young lady's name? Haley. Mm-hmm. And the character in the game is deaf, and the developers brought that aspect into as you played as her, and I thought that was super cool because it gave you it really let you kind of immerse yourself in, we're never going to know what it's going to be like to be deaf, but it at least gave us somewhat of an idea of what it could be like. And I just thought that was really, really cool of them to have that inclusivity. Like, I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, on that note, and I think we brought it before, is that, didn't win an award for inclusivity. There was an award for it. And I'm like, there's everything in that game. It's covered so much, and it didn't win that. I'm like, yeah. And I thought that one pissed me off, too, because I'm like, you have everybody. There's, and I thought that one was really just kind of a really cool. I agree with you. That was interesting. And I love Miles and they're cute.
Oh, I love them. I'm so glad that they got together at the end. I was like, let's go.
Yeah.
My guy.
Yeah. So.
But anyway, listeners, we really appreciate you tuning in tonight to listen to us geek out over Spider-Man 2. I've been dying to do this episode because I'm going to play the game again because I loved it that much, just so I could experience the Venom sequence all over again. But if you played it, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know your favorite parts. Let us know the parts that you got emotional on. Let us know what you hated. If there was anything you hated about the game. I can't really take away anything I hated outside of, some of the challenges were a little annoying, but, what game is perfect? But I have to say this is definitely, Spider-Man 2 was my game of the year. Easy.
Definitely.
Easy.
Yeah, with that, we'll end, and next week we'll get back to more topics.
All right, sounds good.
So, all right, well, thanks for listening, everybody.
Peace, everybody. Take care.